Hello and welcome to Inside Modular, the podcast of commercial modular construction brought to you by the Modular Building Institute. Today's episode is also brought to you by the Offsite Construction Expo, sponsored by the Modular Building Institute. Visit offsiteconstructionexpo.com today to join industry speakers, exhibitors, and attendees for the next virtual expo of 2020 on Wednesday, October 21st. Now everyone can attend for only $199. Register today at offsiteconstructionexpo.com. Welcome everyone, my name is John McMullen and I'm the Marketing Director here at MBI. Today I'm joined by Christian Lawrence, founder and CEO of RISE Modular. Christian is here to talk about how RISE got started and his thoughts on where modular is headed. Christian, thanks for calling in today.
Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. So tell me about yourself. I've read that your background originally was in economics. So how did you find your way into modular construction?
Sure. So my background is in finance. I worked in investment banking and private equity. I've always been passionate about real estate and design. And 4 years ago, I moved back to Minneapolis from the East Coast and got involved in real estate. One development deal in particular where I wanted to explore offsite construction and modular specifically. It was a 200-unit apartment building, and I'd read about modular construction being commonplace in parts of Europe and Asia and growing in popularity on the coasts, but hadn't seen it done in the Midwest. And so I toured a number of largely single-family modular companies up here in the upper Midwest, and none of them could do a project of that size due to their dealer network, and just their whole operation was set up to be geared towards single family and some lighter commercial. And so then I cast a wider net and learned that the closest commercially focused modular companies were well over 1,000 miles away, and that transportation costs would eat into the savings that could be achieved at the plant. And so that wasn't a viable solution financially. But immediately when I first saw a modular factory, it just made sense to me from a high level, industrializing construction and building in a manufacturing environment as opposed to stick by stick or panel by panel on site. And so I was immediately captivated by it. And fast forward a few months, and I'm now digging into the viability of starting a platform here in the upper Midwest instead of trying to find a supplier. And so that's really how I got into it.
Awesome. So what was the process of starting RISE? What was the first step?
So the first step was just doing my market research and validating the concept and the demand. Mapped out modular companies that could do a 200-unit apartment building in the country, and saw a vast white space in the center of the country with no suppliers. And I talked to developers and contractors and validated the demand, and then I went about building the team and finding the right facility.
Well, that leads right into my next question for you. I'm looking at your website. You've got quite a team surrounding you, industry veterans. And as someone relatively new to the industry, how did you build that team? How did you assemble those folks?
Yeah, so we're extremely proud of the team we've put together. We think we have one of the best teams of proven industry leaders, and we recruited from all over the country, from Colorado, Texas, New York, Pennsylvania, Michigan, really all over the country to build a best-in-class team. Obviously, there's not many suppliers in the Midwest that have experience with large-scale apartment buildings and hotels, and so it was critical that we put together the right team to do this. So
tell me about, you touched on this earlier when you were talking about where you decided to start RISE, but tell me about Minnesota. You guys are in Minneapolis. Why there?
Well, first of all, I'm from Minneapolis, but more importantly, or equally importantly, when I mapped out modular companies in the country, I saw a vast white space in the center of the country with little to no suppliers that could reach the Twin Cities, Chicago, for wood construction, and made a lot of sense. It was my hometown, and there was unmet demand.
So Why did you have RISE focus on multifamily and hospitality versus everything else that's out there?
Yeah, so I got into it because I myself was a developer that wanted to build a modular apartment building, and there was no supplier who could do it for me here in the Twin Cities. And so, that's really the how I got into it. And so, we did our market research and found that to be an attractive segment that was growing quickly and had robust demand here in the upper Midwest with no supplier focused on those markets.
And RISE is just completing its first apartment building this week, I think. So tell me about that project. Were there any surprises during construction? Did it turn out how you wanted it to?
Yeah, it turned out really well. We just finished stacking the last module this past Saturday. So that's an exciting milestone for us as a company in 2 years, going from idea to having stacked our first project. So we're really proud of that, and we're proud to show it off. And, a lot of people want to be the second and third project, but not a lot of people want it to be the first. And so that was, a big milestone for us, and to, prove our capability and really have a showcase for our customers to touch and feel.
Well, speaking of capability, tell me about RISE's new factory. I've read it's 141,000 square feet, which is pretty sizable. What are you working on now, and how does that factory work for you?
Yeah, so we spent a ton of time finding the right facility, and we got very lucky to find a facility that we could retrofit into a state-of-the-art modular manufacturing facility. We are very confident that we have one of the best facilities in the country, and as you said, it's about 140,000 square feet. In a few years, once we get up to full capacity, we can run probably 1 million square feet per year out of the facility, and the building is built to be expanded if we want to do that, and we are largely building apartment buildings now. We think hospitality will pick back up in the next year or so, but right now we're pretty much exclusively focused on multifamily projects, whether it's market rate, affordable, student, senior, permanent supportive, the different market segments within multifamily.
Gotcha. So what advantages do you guys see with wood framing as opposed to steel? Because you're only building with wood now, is that right?
That's right. So when we did our market research, we, within a 750-mile radius from our plant in Owatonna, Minnesota, we discovered that over 85% of units delivered in the segments in which we operate are built using wood, and just less than 15% built with concrete and steel. Wood is obviously, cheaper, notwithstanding the increased lumber prices recently. It's still, materially more cost-effective to build with wood. We can build up to 5 stories over a 2-story podium. And so in the markets that we serve, it is heavily skewed towards wood. There's certainly a market for steel and other products, but for the time being, we'll be focused on wood because that's the largest market up here in the upper Midwest.
Do you see that changing at all? Do you think steel will become more and more accepted in your part of the country, or does it look? Are you forecasting wood to be here to stay for a while?
Yeah, wood will, unless steel somehow becomes cheaper than wood, wood will be the primary building material for the foreseeable future, particularly for the, low to mid-rise product. Once you get above 5 stories, you have to go to steel or concrete anyways. And so, at over 85% of units delivered, it would take quite a bit to change that. So we're focused exclusively on wood. In 5 years, might we launch a steel factory, perhaps, but for the time being, we like the wood segment.
Gotcha. So a slightly different topic that I wanted to ask you about. What's your take on affordable housing? What should the modular construction industry's role be in addressing it?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. Affordable housing, as we all know, is a critical situation both locally, regionally, and nationally. And it's something that the industry needs to address. And, I feel, that technology needs to play a role in that. And modular, in particular, I think, is a technology that can truly move the needle and use construction cost savings derived from modular construction and the time savings to help, make affordable housing, more achievable and help increase the housing supply. And so we're doing everything we can to work with affordable developers and nonprofit developers to serve that market. And modular can play a huge role in that, and it should.
What is the demand like in Minneapolis? I'm not familiar with the area. I know there's quite a demand on the West Coast. There's certainly a demand on the East Coast. But in the upper Midwest, is it similar to those areas, or is it more or less?
For affordable housing?
Yes.
Yeah, so it is, it is a critical situation all over the country. And, certainly you hear about California and the coasts, but it's a critical situation everywhere. So there's a ton of demand for affordable housing in the Midwest as well as the coast.
Gotcha. Another slightly different topic. I'm curious. I've been asking people on the show how they've been dealing with COVID-19 this year, and in particular, I'm wondering what strategies have you guys had success with in terms of keeping employees safe and productive?
We've implemented a very robust COVID plan, both at the plant and at our headquarters. We do social distancing and masks and temperature checks daily. And so, we're following CDC and local guidelines to operate as safely as possible. And we're fortunate that we have not yet had a positive case, and we hope to keep it that way. And, our workforce and safety is the number one priority. And so we will continue to follow our plans to keep the workplace safe.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. And speaking of plans, it leads me to my next question. What's the plan for RISE? Tell me about the next 10 years. What's your vision for RISE Modular?
Yes, I think modular is going to become much more commonplace as a construction methodology across the country, and including the Midwest. And we'd like to play a role in that. And there's far more demand and will be than plant capability currently. And so as an industry, we have to build more capacity. And in 5 to 10 years, we'd like to have multiple plants across the country to serve other geographic markets. But notwithstanding the long-term vision, we are relentlessly focused on execution of our projects and want to do well by our customers. And so we are 100% focused on delivering for our customers in the first few years out of our plant here in Minnesota. And once we successfully do that, we will start planning for geographic expansion.
That's exciting. Christian, I just wanted to thank you for your time. This was great. And I want to say congratulations on your first apartment building. That's awesome. And here's to many more.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's my pleasure. My name is John McMullen. This has been another episode of Inside Modular, the podcast of commercial modular construction. Until next time.